Star Trek: The Next Generation, Starfleet Academy, Book Number 4, Capture the Flag, Chapter 9. The importance of the championship was highlighted by the fact that Captain McKersey met them in the transporter room. The flight instructor was beaming as he greeted them. "Congratulations to you, LaForge, and to the rest of your team," he said. "I'm looking forward to quite a match this morning." "Thank you, sir," answered Geordi. He was glad somebody was enjoying the matches. Lieutenant Pantano entered the room, carrying the green and gold flags. "Good morning," she said briskly. "Please step back while we bring the gold team on board." Geordi and his teammates did just that, and Geordi found that his heart was already beginning to beat uncomfortably fast. "Energize," Pantano told the operator. They watched as the gold team materialized on the transporter platform. Geordi heard Megan gasp, and he could scarcely believe his visor. It appeared as if Jack Petty and his team were wearing camouflage makeup on their faces. "Are they wearing makeup?" he whispered to Jenna. "Looks more like war paint," she answered. "They're just trying to scare us." "They're doing a pretty good job of it, too," Geordi thought as he looked around at his team. Petty swaggered as he stepped off the transporter. "Captain McKersey, Lieutenant Pantano, it's an honor." "My," said Pantano, "that is unusual paint you're wearing. How did you make it?" "Charcoal, little limestone, some clay," answered Petty. "Oh," said Cream, "I thought you guys were just messy eaters." The laughter that erupted from the green team put them all back at ease. Geordi could have hugged the neo-pygmy. "We'll see who's laughing later," the big cadet warned them. "Shake hands," said Emma Pantano. Her tone made it clear that was an order. The team shook hands, without much enthusiasm. Petty saved a nasty glare and a firm handshake for Geordi. Pantano handed the flag to Geordi and said, "The green team was chosen at random to beam down first. Good luck to both of you." "Thank you," answered Geordi. He had a feeling she was wishing his team a bit more luck. Captain McKersey rubbed his hands together and grinned. "I'm looking forward to this. I'll see you in the lecture hall. Once we're captured, of course." He strode out of the room. Geordi looked at his teammates and nodded. They slowly took their places on the transporter platform. "Coordinates locked in?" asked Pantano. "Yes, sir." "Energize." They materialized in an unfamiliar part of the playing field. Perhaps, thought Geordi, it wasn't even the same playing field as the day before. Since what they had seen of Sapphire all looked the same, there was no way of telling. He handed the flag to Altos. "You know what to do?" "Yes, sir," said the big Andorian. His antennae twitched. "The flag is safe with me." He dashed off with tremendous leaps toward a boundary marker in the distance. Soon he was out of sight. Geordi, Talara, and the others scanned the horizon looking for a tall formation on which to plant the decoy. "There," said Zamusta, pointing toward a weathered peak that could barely be seen against the gray sky. It wasn't as good as the archway they had defended the day before, thought Geordi, but it was the best they had. "Let's all go over there," he said. "We want to see what direction they'll be coming from." They began an earnest race toward the small peak, and Geordi, Talara, and Vernock scrambled to the top. They found a small depression in which Vernock could sit. He turned his back on the playing field, craned his long neck downward, and held out his arm. His loose sleeve flapped in the breeze like a flag. "Are you sure you can hold that position?" Geordi asked. It didn't look very comfortable. The little Saurian managed a lopsided smile. "It was my idea, wasn't it? Please, just protect me. I don't want that blonde ape jumping on my back." Geordi nodded. "We'll do our best." He turned to survey the desolate plain. Thankfully, there was no sign yet of the gold team. He hoped they, too, were having a hard time finding a place to put their flag. "Captain," said Talara, "visibility is poorer today than yesterday. I believe their attackers will spot our decoy at about 100 meters. That would put them on the far side of that small ravine. They should be running fairly fast as they try to cross it. So, said Geordi, if we hide in the ravine, maybe we can catch them there. Oh! But where will they cross it? That is a problem, the Vulcan agreed. The farther away we mount the ambush, the more likely we will miss them. The closer to the decoy we mount it, the better our chance of success. However, you wished to have the battle in the middle of the field, away from the decoy. Geordi was barely listening to her. He was beginning to worry about the time they were wasting. Here they were doing the same thing that the losing red and blue teams had done, having a discussion when they should be taking action. He pointed down to his teammates. Kareem and Zamusta, he ordered, go out about half a kilometer and keep watch. I don't want them to surprise us. Yes, sir, they answered. They dashed off into the field and Geordi felt better, but he still had a decision to make. If he made the wrong decision, it could be disastrous. All right, he said. We'll plan the ambush in the ravine. If they run past us, we'll chase them down. Talara nodded. Geordi almost wished she would make a comment and tell him whether he was right or wrong, but it wasn't in a Vulcan's character to question the decision of a superior. She leapt down to the ground. Megan bounded up the rock and took her place near the little saurian. She was already stripping leaves from a vine, and she used part of the vine to tie her hair back. I'll be very visible, she promised. I'm making a wig out of these dark leaves. Geordi gave her a feeble smile. He didn't know why, but his confidence was sagging. Maybe we're being too tricky, he thought. Maybe we should just get out there and bump heads. We don't even know where our real flag is. We don't know where the enemy is, and we're planning an ambush? He pushed it outside of his mind and touched Megan's slim shoulder. I'm sure you'll do fine. If this spot is overrun, get out of here. Find Altos and help him. She nodded grimly. Yes, sir. Geordi jumped down from the rock and joined Talara and Jenna. He was beginning to worry about how they were so spread out. Altos with the real flag, Vernock and Megan as the decoy, Zamusta and Kareem on watch, and only the three of them to mount the ambush? What's the matter? Asked Jenna. He shook his head. Just a lot on my mind. Don't worry, said Jenna. We'll take them. She pointed to their companion. See? Talara doesn't look worried. The Vulcan remarked. That is not within my capabilities. Geordi had to chuckle. All right, let's get down in that ravine. With no more talk, they raced about 100 meters and hunkered down in a shallow ravine. Geordi looked at the ledge above them and hoped that the gold team would leap over it without thinking. He looked back at the decoy and saw what looked like the green flag and a dark-haired guard. The guard moved out of sight, and a few seconds later a white-haired guard appeared. It looked convincing, thought Geordi, and he began to relax a little. Talara and Jenna took turns peering over the top of the ledge. Suddenly, Geordi's communicator beeped. He held his breath and tapped it. The forge here. A frightened, breathless voice came. It's Kareem! They snuck up on us! They're all over Zamusta and they're chasing me! Geordi's throat tightened, but he calmly replied, You know where to go. Lead them to it. Out. Jenna looked stricken with worry. Talara peered over the ledge and remarked, This may work to our advantage. Kareem could lead them directly into our ambush. Geordi was up in a flash. I see him, he whispered. We need to get about 30 meters to our left. Running in a crouch, Geordi, Jenna, and Talara scuttled along the ravine. Geordi stole a glance over the ledge and saw a small green shirt with 3 gold shirts fast behind him. Kareem was running for all he was worth, but his shorter legs doomed him against his bigger pursuers. Jenna and Talara had passed Geordi and were moving into position. They looked back at him, and he motioned with his hands for them to stop. He peered over the top again and could see that the 3 gold players were almost on top of Kareem. Just a little bit farther, Kareem, just a little bit more. The brave neo-pygmy dived over the ledge and sprawled in the ravine. At once a bald-headed Catulan was all over him, pounding his coup meter. Kareem vanished before anyone could do anything to help him. Just as quickly, Jenna leapt out and grabbed the gold player from behind in a bear hug. He disappeared in a swirling mass of light. Talara was wrestling with another gold shirt, a big Centaurian. Geordi feared she would lose the struggle, but her incredible strength allowed her to pin back his arms and brush his coup meter. He swung a fist at her chest, and she stumbled backward to get out of the way. His fist disappeared in midair, quickly followed by the rest of him. The third gold player, a bearded Argelian, threw Jenna to the ground and crawled on top of her, trying to reach her coup meter. Geordi rushed to help her, but it seemed like he was moving in slow motion. He heard Jenna scream, and he dived at her attacker at full speed. He knocked him sprawling to the ground and jumped on top of him. The Argelian fought hard, but Geordi was enraged at the way he had treated Jenna. They held each other's arms, so Geordi butted the man's coup meter with his forehead. He rolled off, and the enemy gave him a sad and surprised look before he disappeared. Panting, Geordi staggered to his feet. "Jenna," he gasped, "are you all right?" He looked around. "Jenna is gone," answered Talara, "but the ambush was successful. Counting Kareem, we lost 2 players to their 3. Geordi's heart sank. Somehow losing Jenna and Kareem didn't seem like much of a victory. Plus, Zamusta was probably gone, which meant they were even, down to 5 players on each side. His comm badge beeped, and he hoped for a moment that Zamusta had somehow escaped. "LaForge here," he answered. "Hi, buddy. It's me, Jack Petty." "Huh?" asked Geordi. "How'd you get on this channel?" "Simple," answered Petty. "I had my guys hold down that Tellarite, and I pulled off his comm badge. Then we zapped him. You're losing, buddy." "Not exactly," answered Geordi. He was mad enough to lie. "You lost 3 guys yourself. That's 3 for you, and only 1 for me." "What?" roared Petty. "Try to raise them. It was all planned, an ambush. You're outnumbered, buddy." Angrily, Geordi banged his comm badge to turn it off. He didn't know what he was maddest about, losing his friends or Petty's obnoxious attitude. Or maybe he was maddest about his own anger and the way he had dispatched one of the gold players. Talara raised an eyebrow. "That was clever," she said. "We Vulcans do not lie, so we never realize what a tactical advantage lying can be." "I'm not proud of it," muttered Geordi, brushing the green dirt off his pants. "Now what?" Talara peered across the deserted plain. "If they think we have an advantage, will they be more cautious or more reckless? You know human behavior better than I." Geordi shrugged. "It's hard for me to think like Petty, but my guess is he's very angry. He'll want to find me." "If that is the case," said Talara, "then you should station yourself with Megan at the decoy. The combination of seeing you and our flag may prove irresistible to Cadet Petty. He may expend what is left of his resources attacking it." "And what will you be doing?" asked Geordi. "Somebody must locate their flag and see how many are guarding it." Geordi sighed. "Yeah, you're right. All that makes a lot of sense. Despite what Petty thinks, we've only got 5 people, and we've got to use them wisely. But take the long way around and don't let them spot you." Talara nodded. "My intention is not to be captured." The Vulcan got down in a crouch and ran back along the ravine until she was out of sight, her green tunic and green-tinged skin helping her to blend in. If she was out of his sight, thought Geordi, he could only hope that she was out of Petty's sight, too. He still felt worried and glum as he made his way back to the decoy. He missed Jenna and Kareem. Of course, both of them had been captured in yesterday's game, and they had still won. But he had watched that from a distance. Today it had happened right in front of him, with him unable to stop it. It was true, they weren't really gone. They were sitting in comfortable seats right now, sipping lemonade and watching him on the view screen. But he felt like a captain who had lost valuable members of his crew. Maybe that's the true purpose of this game, thought Geordi. It's not the strategy or the combat, but to make us realize what it feels like to lose our comrades, our friends. Geordi knew from the years he had spent growing up on starships that mistakes often caused death. Real death, where people didn't come back. Now all of the cadets would know it. Even Jack Petty must have felt the loss of those 3 teammates he had sent into an ambush. After this, would he be so anxious to command? Megan waved to him as he climbed slowly up the limestone formation. He was impressed by the way Vernock was still holding his position, still looking like a flag. "Is everything okay?" asked Megan. Geordi shrugged. "I think so. Jenna, Kareem, and Zamusta are gone, but so are 3 of their people. Our advantage is that they think we have 7 players, and we know they only have 5. Why did you come back?" "Why? Yeah. Why did you come back?" asked Vernock without moving a muscle. "Jack Petty's angry at me. If he sees me up here, he might try to rush us with everything he's got. Talara's still out there looking for their flag." "Well," said Megan, "I think your plan is working." "What?" asked Geordi. Megan pointed off into the distance. 3 gold shirts were headed toward them, moving fast. Chapter 10. Geordi backed up and nearly fell over Vernock. "Sorry," he said. He looked at Megan. "Have you made any nets?" "Only one," she answered. "I was doing it mostly for show." "Okay," said Geordi. "Find a good hiding place and be ready to use it. There's 3 of us and 3 of them." "But one of us is a flag," Vernock reminded him. "At the right moment," said Geordi, "you can stop being a flag." He leaned over and watched Megan scamper down the rock formation and squeeze herself into a crevice. Then he looked across the plain. The 3 gold players were closing rapidly, led by a big cadet with golden hair. Geordi suddenly felt very alone atop the rock. He wished he could trade places with Altos, wherever he was. There was no doubt Petty would attack them. He would conclude that he had 3 attackers to their 2 defenders. He would assume the rest of the green team was after his flag, which would make an attack even more urgent. Geordi quickly planned his strategy. He knew he had to make sure they attacked from the front, where Megan was hidden. From the front, they could only see Vernock's back. If they attacked from the side or the rear, they might find out they were being tricked. Finally, the 3 gold shirts slowed to a jog and stopped at the bottom of the rock. Sweat had darkened their camouflage paint, and they looked as if they had been rolling in the dirt. "Not too close," the gold captain warned his teammates. "They might have nets." "Yeah, that's right," Geordi yelled down. "Stay away from us, unless you want to go back and watch us on a view screen." Petty smiled. "You may have more players than we do, although I'm beginning to doubt it. But we found your flag first. My defenders haven't seen any of your people." "They won't see them till it's too late." That made Petty pause in thought. He motioned his players to come close and hear his whispered orders. They nodded and started to circle the rock. "Are you afraid?" taunted Geordi. "Where are you going?" "Just going to take a look around," said Petty. "This is it," shouted Geordi. "Are you saying the 3 of you can't climb up here and take this flag away from me?" "We know there's at least one more of you," snapped Petty. "Oh," scoffed Geordi. "Then you're scared of 2 of us?" Petty scowled. Geordi knew he was beginning to strike home. He played his dirtiest card. "If you're too much of a coward, Jack, send the other 2, like you did yesterday." That got all 3 humans climbing up the front face of the rock. Petty started out in the lead, but he was smarter than the other 2. He slowed down and let them pass him while he watched their progress. The first one who got to Megan's hiding place didn't even see her until it was too late. She whipped the net around his arms, and he was about to fall when she slapped his coup meter. By the time he lost his balance, he was disappearing. His comrade moved swiftly and grabbed her arm. Megan struggled, but she was slight and not very strong. It was all she could do to keep from falling. Somehow, she kept her feet in the crevice and battled the attacker. Geordi wanted to help her, but he knew he dared not move. He had to pretend that the flag was behind him, and he couldn't desert it, not even to save the albino cadet. He watched with dismay as Petty came to help capture her. Megan finally did the only thing she could. She leapt from the rock and tumbled to the ground. The gold shirt was right behind her, and he landed on her back. She squirmed out from under him, and they both turned to attack. They hit each other's coup meters at the same time, and they vanished in twin columns of dancing light. Jack Petty laughed as if he was expecting this. "Okay, LaForge, it's just you and me, the 2 captains." "It would appear so," agreed Geordi. Petty was still wary as he climbed up the rock. He was half expecting someone else to jump out of a crevice with a net. But that wasn't the surprise that was waiting for him, Geordi knew. The smaller cadet edged closer to the edge, hoping he could hit Petty's coup meter when he tried to climb over. But the gold captain was ready for that maneuver. He grinned at Geordi for a moment, then threw a handful of dirt and pebbles into his face. Geordi flung his arms in front of his face to protect his visor, and he stumbled backward. By the time he scrambled to his feet, Petty was standing in front of him, laughing. Geordi instantly positioned himself between Petty and the fake flag. He marveled at the way Vernock was still holding perfectly still. Petty had to keep his eyes on Geordi and couldn't take a good look at the flag. He came closer, and Geordi took a swing at his coup meter. The bigger cadet jumped back. "You're done now," said Petty. "We'll see," rasped Geordi. In a flash, Petty bounded on top of him and grabbed his arms. Geordi fought for all he was worth, but the cadet was much bigger and stronger. He held Geordi's arms in a vice-like grip. As he had done to the other gold player, Geordi tried to butt Petty's coup meter with his head. The big cadet shook him like a rag. In a judo move, Petty swung a foot behind Geordi's leg and dropped him to the ground. Geordi was stunned and couldn't move. He saw Petty's hand sweeping down toward his chest and barely managed to deflect it. It missed his coup meter by a centimeter. Petty cursed and tried again, but Geordi quickly rolled over. The blow hit him hard in the back. He stumbled forward, but the cadet jumped on his legs and pinned him to the ground. "He's not going after the flag," thought Geordi, "until he finishes with me. If I can just get closer to Vernock, maybe he can do something." His hands clawing the green limestone, Geordi crawled toward Vernock, dragging Petty after him. "Just a few more meters." As he got closer to the decoy, the big cadet growled like an animal, gripping Geordi's shoulders, and threw him onto his back. Geordi struggled, but Petty was too strong and too determined. With a howl of victory, he hit Geordi's coup meter and jumped to his feet. In his last second on Sapphire, Geordi had the pleasure of watching Petty reach for the green flag, only to have it leap up and strike him in the chest. "Ah!" screamed the big cadet as he materialized next to Geordi in the transporter room of the Glen. "No! No! That flag was alive! How could it be?" Geordi was still panting as he stepped off the transporter, but he was also grinning. "That wasn't a flag. It was Vernock." "Not the Saurian!" yelled Petty. His mouth hung open. "You planted a decoy! Where's your real flag?" Geordi shook his head. "To tell you the truth, I don't know." "Can't you guys argue in the lecture hall?" said the transporter operator. "You're out of it now." "Sorry, sir," said Petty to the ensign. He glared at Geordi for a moment, then just shook his head. "I knew you'd be trouble, but I didn't know you'd be this much trouble." "Come on," said Geordi. "Let's see who's going to win this thing." When they entered the lecture hall, they were amazed to get a loud round of applause from everyone gathered there. Captain McCursey was beaming, and Lieutenant Pontano nodded her head in approval. Jenna, Kareem, and the other green players were laughing. "Excellent play," barked Captain McCursey. Sidra Swan rushed up to Geordi and shook his hand. "I don't know if you're going to win or not, but we're all rooting for you." "Thanks," he muttered. He looked around the room and saw to his amazement that most of the audience did seem to be rooting for the green team, and he thought nobody liked his bunch of oddballs. But they did. Geordi was also surprised to find out that he could be captured and still be a hero. He looked over at Jack Petty, thinking how ironic it was that they were both out of action. Only their plans and a few teammates survived. The measure of good officers, Geordi knew, was not how they performed, but how their crew performed when they weren't around. "What's going on?" growled Jack Petty, taking a seat in the front row. One of his teammates reported, "They've got 3 players to our 2. Our 2 are where you station them guarding the flag. The Vulcan has it under observation, and the Saurian is coming to help her. The Andorian is guarding their real flag." "Not for long," said Kareem. "Look!" He pointed to the left screen where the Andorian was sitting calmly in front of the green flag. He spoke into his communicator and stood up. "They've told him to come for the final battle," said Jenna. "There's nobody to go after the green flag now." Jack Petty began to chew on a fingernail. "I don't like this," he muttered. "I don't like this at all." By contrast, Geordi was rather enjoying being a spectator. He had enough cuts and bruises to show that he'd played and played hard. He slumped into a seat and was soon surrounded by his captured teammates, Jenna, Megan, Kareem, and Zamusta. Jenna brought him a glass of lemonade. She grinned. The decoy worked like a charm.
But it's not over yet,
remarked Zamusta. The Tellarite crinkled his snout with worry. There were a few minutes of calm as the Andorian bounded across the plain to join his comrades, Talara and Vernock. Glancing from one screen to another, Geordi had to smile. One of the gold defenders was a Delosian, and the other was a Betazoid, which meant there were no humans left in the game. He looked again at Jack Petty, and the big cadet shrugged and shook his head. Yes, he noticed it too. The fate of the game was up to a bunch of non-humans. All eyes and one visor were soon drawn to the right-hand screen. Everyone knew what had to come next, an assault on the gold flag. As before, the gold team had planted on level ground right in front of a boundary marker. There was only one way to approach it. They couldn't hear Talara's orders because she whispered them. A moment later, she and Altos stood and walked confidently toward the two gold defenders. Vernock trailed behind them. The defenders stood shoulder to shoulder directly in front of their flag. They got down in wrestling crouches, ready to meet the attack. There were no taunts or shouts this time, no trickery. Looking very determined, Altos and Talara broke into a run and leapt upon the defenders. The gold players fought valiantly and wrestled the attackers away from their flag, but there was no one to stop the little Saurian. Vernock slipped between the grunting warriors and grabbed the prize. With a strange chirp, he waved the gold flag over his head. A buzzer sounded in the lecture hall, followed by deafening cheers. Everyone crowded around Geordi, slapping his shoulders and pumping his hands. Good job! Wonderful strategy. 3 cheers for our captain. Captain McCursey shook his hand. Keep this up, Mr. LaForge, and you have quite a future ahead of you. Thank you, sir. Geordi looked past his well-wishers at Jack Petty, who sat alone, dejected. The big cadet buried his face in his hands. Geordi now knew why he never liked gym class and competitive sports. He liked to win, but he hated to see other people lose. Thank you, he said to everyone as he gently shoved past them. He finally ended up in front of Jack Petty. The others in the room seemed to melt away. The blond young man muttered, If you've come to gloat, go ahead. I deserve it. Yes, you do, Geordi agreed. I'm not much good at gloating. I'd rather make friends. He smiled and held out his hand. Petty looked at him with surprise. Then a grin crept across his face and he pumped Geordi's hand. If I ever get to command, I know that's a big if, I'm going to remember this day. I'm going to remember that brute force doesn't always work. You've got to use your brain and your heart. The big cadet stood up. You're a classy guy, LaForge. I want you on my team next time. Geordi smiled. Then choose me first. Petty grinned. I will. After I choose that little Saurian. The red team won the afternoon match for 3rd place, which pleased Geordi. He felt happy for Sidra Swan, but he couldn't really pay much attention to the game because everyone was so busy congratulating him. It felt strange to be a hero. After leaving orbit, the first-year cadets got a detailed tour of the Glen, which was almost as exciting as the game. Later that night, Captain McCursey repeated the video log of the championship match for the upper-class cadets, who hadn't been able to watch it live. But Geordi left shortly after the beginning. He didn't want to see his friends be captured, and he didn't want to see his new friends lose. A party was going on in the lounge, but Geordi didn't stay long. He went to his room, read a journal, and dropped off to sleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. Chapter 11. 2 days later, Geordi stood on the bank of the stream that meandered through the grounds at Starfleet Academy. It was the same stream, the same buildings, the same classrooms, and the same teachers, but everything else was different. Was it him? He didn't feel any different, but there was something in the way people talked to him, the way they treated him, even the way they looked at him. People he didn't know, like that fellow named William Riker, came up and introduced themselves. It was all different. He thought about the way his life had been only a week earlier. He hardly had any friends then. He didn't even know anybody's name. Now everybody said hello to him. He was going to a concert tonight with Megan, and tomorrow he was going to a football game with Jenna. Women were still something of a mystery, but at least they were a friendly mystery. Now if he could just find time to study.
LaForge,
called a cranky voice. Geordie jumped and checked his feet. I'm not walking on the liverwort, he answered.
I know you're not,
said Boothby. The old gardener strode up to him and smiled.
In fact, I hear you walk on water now.
That's not true, said Geordie, shaking his head. Does everybody on campus know about it?
That you won Capture the Flag?
Asked Boothby.
Of course I know. I heard you took a bunch of losers and molded them into a fighting force to be reckoned with.
Bah, scoffed Geordie. I just got lucky. I chose those people just to prove a point. They're the ones who did it, not me.
Boothby shrugged. Nevertheless, they'll be watching you now. They'll expect more from you. They'll want to get you on the fast track to a command post.
Geordie moaned. I don't want a command. I want to be an engineer or a navigator.
Maybe you'll command an engineering department, said Boothby. Next to the bridge, that's the most important part of a starship.
Geordie nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, maybe. The old man squinted as if he was remembering something.
Years ago, there was another cadet who was having trouble at the academy until he won a Parisi Square tournament. His name was Picard.
Who?
Never mind. You haven't heard about him yet, but you will. Listen, LaForge, don't let them push you into anything. You're still the master of your own fate.
The young cadet shrugged. I never felt that way before, like I was the master of my own fate.
Well, you prove that you are, said Boothby. You made them notice you, and that's a rare achievement here, unless it's for something bad.
Geordie chuckled. I'm not complaining. It was a good experience for all of us.
Just remember one thing, growled Boothby.
Yes?
Stay off my liverwort.